What would you do if the person you loved the most crossed a line you never imagined? A moment that breaks not just your heart but your sense of safety. This is not a story about anger. It's not about shouting or revenge. It's about a quiet choice, made in pain. A choice that turned silence into strength, grace into power, and heartbreak into a lesson that changed everything. So tell me this. If your own child hurt you, would you choose anger or courage and grace? I never imagined that the deepest pain of my life would come from inside my own home. A place that once felt safe suddenly felt unfamiliar. In that moment, I realized how quickly love can turn into silence, and how fragile respect can become when it's taken for granted. A mother prepares herself for hardship from the world, but nothing prepares her for pain caused by her own child. That truth settled heavily on my heart, leaving me frozen between disbelief and heartbreak. Time seemed to slow down as memories rushed in. Every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every moment of care played silently in my mind, asking questions my heart wasn't ready to answer. I stood there without words, trying to understand how love could lose its boundaries and how respect could disappear so easily. Inside a home built on patience and trust, the pain wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, heavy, and deeply personal. My heart didn't shatter all at once. It cracked slowly under the weight of realization. In that silence, I understood something clearly. This moment would define what came next. I could let it break me, or I could choose to face it with strength I didn't know I had. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue or defend myself. Not because I didn't feel the pain, but because I knew reacting in anger would only make the wound deeper. In that moment, silence felt safer than words. Words can be twisted, but silence gives truth time to surface. I chose to pause, to breathe, and to stay grounded. Silence is often mistaken for weakness, but it can be a powerful shield. It allowed me to observe, to listen carefully, and to understand what was really happening. Realized that anger would only teach fear, but calm could teach respect. This wasn't about winning an argument. It was about protecting my dignity. As I stayed quiet, I felt my control returning. My thoughts became clearer. My emotions settled. Silence gave me space to choose wisdom over impulse. That silence wasn't surrender. It was preparation. Because I knew the right moment to speak would come. And when it did, my words would matter. That night felt heavier than any night before. The house was quiet, but my thoughts were loud. Every corner held a memory, and every memory carried a question I wasn't ready to answer. Sleep stayed far away as my mind replayed the past. Moments of laughter, lessons taught, sacrifices made. I wondered when love turned into distance, and how respect slowly slipped away. I questioned myself more than anyone else. Had I missed the signs? Had I given too much without setting boundaries? Those thoughts weighed heavily on my heart. Pain asked me to react immediately, but wisdom asked me to wait. I learned that night that not every battle is meant to be fought with words. As the hours passed, something inside me shifted. The pain didn't disappear, but clarity slowly replaced confusion. I began to understand what truly mattered. By the time morning was near, I had made a quiet decision. I wouldn't let this moment define me by pain. I would define it with wisdom. Morning arrived quietly, without answers but with clarity. The tears were gone, not because the pain disappeared, but because I finally understood what needed to be done. I realized that reacting with anger would only deepen the divide. This wasn't a moment for punishment. It was a moment for direction, for guidance rooted in dignity. Strength doesn't always show itself through loud words. Sometimes it appears as calm resolve, as steady breathing, as the courage to remain gentle when it's hardest. I wasn't planning to teach a lesson through fear. I wanted understanding to take root, to remind what respect truly looks like. Inside a family. As I moved through the morning, every step felt intentional, not rushed, not uncertain, just steady and clear. In that calm, I felt my strength return. I knew I was ready, not to confront with anger, but to lead with grace. I prepared breakfast like any other morning. Even though nothing felt ordinary inside me, my hands were steady, because calm is a choice you make again and again. And no accusations filled the air. No heavy words were spoken, only the sound of small movements, and a silence that carried meaning. Every step I took was intentional. I wasn't pretending nothing happened. I was choosing not to let anger lead the moment. Grace has a quiet power. It disarms defensiveness and opens space for reflection. Without saying a single harsh word, I understood then that anger demands attention, but grace demands understanding. And understanding lasts far longer than fear ever could. That table became more than a place to eat. It became a space for truth, for respect, and for lessons that don't need to be shouted. When I finally spoke, my voice was calm and steady. There was no anger in it, only honesty shaped by years of patience and care. I chose my words carefully, because words can either heal or harden hearts. This wasn't about winning, it was about being understood. I spoke about respect, about boundaries, and about the values that once guided our home. Reminded him that strength is never proven through harm. True strength shows itself through control, accountability, and care. I didn't raise my voice to be heard. I lowered it, because calm truth has a way of reaching places anger cannot. When I finished speaking, I knew my message had landed, not because of a reaction, but because of the silence that followed. After those words, the room felt different. Not lighter, not heavier, just honest. As if something unspoken had finally been understood. Silence returned, but it no longer felt tense. It felt thoughtful, like space being made for reflection rather than defense. I didn't need an apology to feel heard. Understanding showed itself in the way the air between us changed. Respect doesn't always return with words. Sometimes it arrives quietly, through awareness and pause. In that moment, I felt my strength settle back into place. Not loud, not forceful, just steady and sure. The shift wasn't dramatic, but it was real. And sometimes real change begins exactly like that. My heart was broken, but it didn't harden. I allowed myself to feel the pain, without letting it turn into bitterness. Because healing begins when you stay honest with yourself. I realized that courage isn't loud or aggressive. Sometimes it's simply the decision to remain kind when anger feels easier, and to stay grounded when emotions run high. Grace became my guide, not to excuse what happened, but to protect my peace and remind me of my own worth. I understood that motherhood doesn't end when respect is tested. It evolves into boundaries, wisdom, and self-respect. That experience changed me, not by taking something away, but by revealing strength I had carried all along. I walked forward knowing one truth clearly. I didn't lose myself that day. I found myself stronger, calmer, and whole.